everyone, and welcome to The Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And once again, while I normally do not do this program by myself, today you will get the joy and the pleasure of speaking to the voice from behind enemy lines, from the belly of the beast. Unfortunately, Michael Piwowarski is, he's busy out working, helping serve his community there in Florida. As you know, they're dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Ian, and he is out doing some disaster relief with the VFW, and I wish him well, and he is exactly where he needs to be, doing exactly what he needs to be doing. And, we're going to have a good time here in spite of the fact that my good friend is not going to be with us today. But hey, I got y'all. So we're going to have a good time. So do me a favor. Just give me a shout out if you're watching, if you're listening. If you're watching and you're listening live, do me a favor. Give me a shout out. I'll put your chats, your tweets, whatever it is, however you are partaking of the program. If you're listening live, then you're going to have an opportunity to comment, and I will put your comments up here on the big board so that you can once again be a part of the conversation. So tune on in. Now, before we get started, we got to do what we normally do, which is we got to give a shout out to our sponsors. And that's right. That would be starting with our folks over at Hitman Industries. That's Hitman Industries. Folks, if you own an AR, there's a very good chance that you already own this one, right? That you already own that you already own this barrel, that you already have one of their barrels in your firearm. So, but hey, there's nothing that says that you can't go and you can't you can't go and buy a new one, or you can't go ahead and work on your rebuild. Maybe you're looking to do a new build. However it is, whatever it is that you're looking to do, go ahead and reach out and take a look what they have over there right now. They have a 15% off on all fluted items. So anyway, but it's a fall flute sale. Check it out. You guys are going to very much enjoy it. I think you're definitely going to find something that you're going to want to purchase over there. So do me a favor, go ahead, check it out. Here, tell you what, I'll even pull it up for you. Bam, there it is right there. Hitman Industries right there. That is their website. Check it out. And once again, if you like what you see, go ahead and make a purchase, and make sure you let them know that it was the guys over at the Rundown that sent you. There you go. That's the info right there on the 15% off flute sale. So once again, check them out. Also want to encourage you to check out the California Republican Assembly. That's right. This is an organization that I work with and I work for. They are the Republican wing of the Republican Party in the state of California. And they are fighting to help elect common sense conservatives, not common sense Republicans, but common sense conservatives. Folks like you and me who believe in the right to keep and bear arms, who believe in protecting innocent life, who believe in limited government and lower taxes. These are the folks who they're helping to elect, and they're doing it, once again, behind enemy lines in the belly of the beast. You know, all bad ideas come out of California, so how about we fight for the folks who are fighting in California to keep those bad ideas, in the minds of the left-wingers in California. So support the California Republican Assembly. And then there is our good friends over at uscombatgear.com. That's right. These are the folks. Let me tell you what. These folks have the best, the coolest tactical gear that you will find just about anywhere. If our military are using it and it is cool, trust me, you will find it at uscombatgear.com. So do us a favor. Check them out. Check them out. Check them out. Now, folks, let's just be real. Look, we are brought to you by them, right? They bring us to you. They bring us to you in hopes that you will go, we will bring you to them so that you'll check them out. I'm not saying that everybody needs combat gear, but guess what? You may need gloves. You may need optics. I'm not saying that everyone lives in California, but you know what? You need to support good conservative candidates. Also, I'm not saying that everybody needs a barrel for their gun, but everybody needs a barrel for their gun, or at least they need a gun. So check them out. Check out these sponsors. Go there. Their links to their websites are in the description to this program. Go there, check them out. And if you like what you see, I would encourage you to please go ahead and, kick them down a little bit of money and make sure that you tell them that the folks over at the Rundown were the ones who sent you. See, that's not hard, is it? Let's go ahead and check this out. Oh, wait, look, we already have some folks who are chiming in. We have Portia Stewart saying, what's up? Okay, she didn't say what's up. She said, hello, Craig. Hello, Portia. It is a pleasure to speak to you today. I hope that you enjoy the program. Please feel free to chime in, and let's have this be a conversation. I realize that because I talk so much that I seem like I can just have a conversation by myself, but trust me, a conversation with good folks, good like-minded folks is always better. All right. By the way, just in case I forgot to remind you, if you have not already done so, please make sure like, share, subscribe. Tell everybody where the conversation is taking place. It's right here. It's right here. Let them know whether they're watching this on Facebook, they're watching this on YouTube, they're watching this on Twitter. You can have a conversation. You can participate in the conversation with us. All you got to do is comment, and all those comments will pop right up here, and I will see them, and I will be able to get you guys on in order to enjoy that conversation. All right, let's get into the news. All right, this first one. Now, this is something that instinctively most of us who are involved in the Second Amendment rights movement know. From the first time we heard about red flag laws, we knew that when people truly understood what they are and how they work, people would tend to oppose them. They sound like a good idea. Because you know what, most of us individuals, most of us who support the Second Amendment, we don't want bad guys having guns either. We don't want people who are potentially dangerous to themselves or to others. We don't want them to be able to have access to firearms either. So the idea of trying to create something that will keep that from happening sounds attractive. But then they come up with this idea. And the funny part is that they come up with the idea and they say, well, we're going to take guns for people who are having mental health issues, right? Hold on. Wait, hold on. It looks like we have a troll who is commenting. It says Michael Pakowski, is it? I think it's Mike Pakowski is wondering what happened to the good-looking guy. He's right here. The good-looking guy is right here. So, and by the way, the other guy, the only reason he looked so good was because he was surrounded by all that whiskey and bourbon. I'm just saying, you know, that's just kind of how that worked. In any case, so those of us who know how red flag laws work knew that, okay, in practical application, this is going to be a problem because what generally winds up happening is, depending on the state, now, for example, in the state of California, someone you may or may not know. It used to be a family member or law enforcement or close family member or law enforcement. Now, it could be anybody you work with, anybody you go to school with, anybody who, basically, someone you may or may not know can go to a court of law, have you deemed a danger to yourself or others. It's ex parte hearing, so you don't get to be there. You don't even know about it. They get a gun seizure warrant, and then they are sent to your home to confiscate your firearms. But keep in mind, you have never, ever, ever, you haven't been to a hearing, you haven't been to court, so there's no, you haven't had a say, you haven't had a chance to stand up for yourself. Well, it turns out that when individuals actually get a chance to see what's going on, when they actually get to know and understand how these things work, well, it turns out that support for red flag laws, well, it drops significantly. So what they did was, and this was done by John Lott and our friends over there at the Crime Prevention Research Institute. And what they did was they did a poll. They polled 1,000 people. And the first they asked them, would you support a law? Would you support the idea of removing guns from people who are a danger to themselves or others, or a law that would allow people to confiscate it? And 58% of the people polled said yes. Then they explained that, okay, so keep in mind, this person wouldn't get a hearing. In other words, they haven't had a hearing yet. They haven't committed any crime before their firearms are confiscated. Do you now still support this law? Well, the support dropped from 58% down to 30%, meaning only 38% of the people who knew and understand how red flag laws worked, how gun violence restraining orders work, how emergency or emergency protection, violence protection orders work, only 30% of the people who understood how they work actually support them. Now, folks, that means that it's not even a majority of Democrats. I mean, we're talking across the board, people who understand the basic fundamental thing of, I don't know, rights. Yeah, they don't support this idea. They don't get down with this particular idea. And that's the interesting part about it is they just, most of the time when they do these polls, they don't really give people all of the information. And so that's what winds up happening when you get these polls where they say, all these people support gun confiscation. All right. No. Sorry, they don't. Let's see what Porsche has to say about this one. It says, heck, if we cannot get folks to come forward with crime tips, because snitches get stitches, red flag laws will never be applied on those who have illegal arms. Well, now here's the one area, Porsche, where I will agree and disagree. Because oftentimes red flag laws, because they can also be instituted by law enforcement, are used as a way. Saying often is not right. I know that in at least one place they're being used as a way in which to confiscate individuals' guns who probably their guns could be confiscated because they're involved in illegal activity. But it's generally done by law enforcement. And in California, it actually comes with a search warrant. So it actually would allow law enforcement to search somebody's place when they couldn't get a search warrant any other way. So, so that's an interesting perspective in regards to this. But folks, once again, I wish this were the only issue where this was true. Because when people understand things like there is no real gun show loophole for the most part, as Mike likes to say, the gun show loophole where you put your money in the loophole and you pull out a gun. Yeah, that doesn't exist. That's not a thing, right? But you do have people who believe that, in fact, that's a thing, that you just go to a gun show and you can just buy whatever guns you want, however many guns you want, and it's never going to be any problem or any issue. They don't understand, or here's the other one. They believe that you can just buy a gun online and nothing happens. They fail to understand that when you purchase a firearm online, it has to be, if you buy it out of state, but it has to be shipped. If you buy it online, it has to be shipped to an FFL or a licensed dealer, where you then go through all the processes in that state in order to be able to purchase that firearm. And by the way, you're not able to purchase firearms out of state. I mean, these are all things that the average person doesn't know. And the anti-gunners, when they do their polls, or the media who basically are anti-gunners, when they do their polls or they ask their questions, this is stuff that most people do not know. And because they do not know it, you get the answers to the polls. They do these polls, and all of a sudden, we get surprised when the answers don't come out the way that we want. Well, that's because they are largely uninformed. That's what it really just all comes down to. Is most of it is a lack of information. And you can imagine that if we have such a thing as low information voters on general topics, you can imagine how low information most people are on issues relating to firearms. Once again, not saying, just saying. All right, let's move on to the next subject, Uvalde. Well, we all know what an epic fail what occurred in Uvalde was. We all know that when it all came down to it, that the not only did the school system fail, because supposedly they had locked doors, and dude got in a locked door. The door evidently was not locked, a gate, and he was able to get in. We know that they have campus police, and the campus police, well, either there wasn't a campus police on site when the incident actually happened. And then we know in general, law enforcement, when they showed up, were not involved or engaged or decided to sit outside for, I believe it was either almost or over an hour before they finally went in, basically while children were bleeding to death. This is all stuff, once again, this is all stuff that we know occurred. Well, it turns out that at the very least, there's whether you want to call it an investigation, you want to call it being held accountable. In Uvalde, the police department there is actually, the entire police department there has been well, they've been suspended. As is noted here in this story here at Fox News, the entire school district police department has been suspended. And it says here, Uvalde School District in Texas cites additional concerns with the police department operations. So evidently, this was not the only issue or the only concern. Unfortunately, one of the things about challenging situations, I say, heat. When heat is put on something, it exposes imperfections and impurities. And unfortunately, not everything is able to stand up to the heat of a situation. And there is no doubt that what occurred that day there in Texas, there was a lot of heat applied to the folks there in Uvalde. And, needless to say, I'm wondering what will happen with the police department, whether or not it will be reformed in its old form, or whether or not it will wind up being just shut down, period. Let's see. We got a comment here. Well, Pookie does not purchase his serial file down guns from a registered dealer. Oh, okay. That was in comment to our previous story. No, actually, no, it wasn't. Okay, this was just I guess this is just a general statement. But anyway, in this particular case, what we're talking about in the case of Uvalde was basically these folks. Well, it appears that the police department is going to be held accountable. Sadly, unfortunately, a lot of these imperfections are discovered after an event happens. It would be really nice if some of these issues could be discovered before stuff like this happens. If we did regular audits of law enforcement, in particular when it comes to dealing with issues like this, because a lot of people don't realize, I don't know maybe about local school districts, but a lot of times they don't do active shooter training. Now, the scary thing about this one is that from what I understand, and I could be wrong, and please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that they actually went through active shooter training not too long before this. And as I understand it, the way in which they handled it is not the way in which they were trained. They were not trained to sit outside and wait for the higher-ups to give them the approval to go in. They weren't trained to wait until they had certain tactical gear. They were told your job is to go in and engage. Because what we know is this, whether it is a law-abiding citizen or it is law enforcement, the sooner that an individual is engaged with someone who is there armed to stop them, it increases, or we'll say it decreases the amount of time that it takes for them. The amount of time that the incident takes, right? That exists, because all of a sudden they're going into these incidents. This is the reason why they choose gun-free zones. They choose a gun-free zone because they don't want resistance. They choose schools because they want minimal resistance. They want to do as much damage as possible. Well, as soon as they meet resistance, and oftentimes these are people who have been victims, right? They have felt like victims, and this is the one time in their life where they now feel like they are the victimizer. They are the ones in control. But as soon as they meet armed opposition, they go right back into their victim status. They go right back into their victimhood. They retreat back into being a victim. And that is then at the event. That is then at the point where you're able to then stop these incidences. But as we know, that didn't happen in this case. And that's why we know the training that these law enforcement officers, had they followed it, probably would have reduced the number. I'm not saying it would have stopped. Would have made it so that no one got killed. But probably, most likely, it would have helped reduce the number of individuals who lost their lives. So glad to see they're being held accountable. Moving right along, we have a state of emergency in New York City. New York City, get a rope. That's right, New York City. The mayor there of New York City has declared it to be a state of emergency. Why? Well, because of the influx of migrants. Now, there in New York, they have, I will say, tens of thousands, all right, They're saying he told reporters Friday it will cost the city $1 billion this fiscal year. $1 billion is what they're anticipating it's going to cost to address asylum seekers. Now, New York now has more than 61,000 people in its shelter system, right? He said more than 17,000 asylum seekers have been bused to New York City. 17,000. Now, folks, let us put that number in perspective, all right? 2 million, over 2 million so far this fiscal year have crossed into, or I'm sorry, last fiscal year, because now that fiscal year is over. Last fiscal year, over 2 million individuals crossed into our country illegally in the state of Texas, or not the state of Texas, across our southern border. That many people crossed into our country illegally and are right now, most of them being dealt with by or being handled by and addressed by our southern states, right? Border towns that are nowhere near the size of New York City. And New York City now has 17,000. I didn't say million. I didn't say 170,000. I said 17,000. And they are declaring a state of emergency there in New York. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting how this is an emergency, folks. I really am not. Or at least I don't get how you then get to turn around and point your fingers at it and get mad at it and say, we're not equipped to deal with this. This should be on the this should be on the border towns. The border states are equipped to deal with this. No, they're not. No, they're not. But up until now, they have been expected to deal with it by, well, the folks in New York. That's who's been counting on them to deal with these. Texas spent more than $18 million busing immigrants there to New York. We know that Arizona's spending money. We also know that they're in Florida. They're spending money. But the thing is that, and once again, the people who are getting all the blame is Governor Ducey of Arizona, Governor Abbott of Texas, and Governor DeSantis of Florida. But folks, here's the funny part. Here's the hilarious part about it. They're not even the ones who are sending most of the people. Do you want to know who are sending most of the people? Shall I tell you? Shall I tell you? That's right. It would be the Democrat mayor of El Paso, who has sent the most. In fact, the Democrat mayor of El Paso, his name is Oscar Lesor. He has sent 3 times as many. I'm sorry, not 3 times, twice as many migrants to New York City as has Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Now, explain this to me. Why haven't you heard his name coming out of their mouth? Why haven't you heard that individual's name being mentioned? Why haven't you heard the mayor of El Paso? Why isn't his name been mentioned once by Eric Adams or by what's her face? Is it Cheryl Bowser? Bowser there in Washington D.C. or the mayor of Chicago? You don't hear their name. You don't hear that individual's name. Do you know why? Because that individual is a Democrat. Guess who else's name you don't hear? You don't hear Joe Biden's name mentioned. Because see, long before any of the Republicans were sending them to these sanctuary cities, the White House, the Department of Homeland Security, Immigration, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, his White House was flying them to other cities throughout the country. And there were tons of reports. And, you know, if you read the New York Post or the Washington Times or you watched Fox News or Newsmax or OAN, you knew about this. But if you watched CNN, MSNBC, ABC, you knew nothing about it. You had no idea that it was happening. Because, you know, by the way, and they were asked about it in the White House briefings. And, they kind of ignored the questions. By the way, you would have known that if, those stations had actually covered those portions of the White House briefings. But that's not exactly how things work around here, is it? No, it is not. No, it is not. And thus, we're dealing with what we are dealing with. Folks, here's the thing, and I will be the first to admit it. To a certain degree, yes, it is a political stunt. And the goal is to get people who normally are like, oh, well, we welcome it. People, well, let me clarify. People who have passed policies saying, we are willing to commit resources and money and provide jobs and shelter and housing. We come in, all of you illegal immigrants, right? The people who are welcoming him here, who, by the way, are part of the problem, because when they see you in South America or they see you in all of these other countries, when they see you saying, come on in, that's why they come in droves. That's why they're coming. They're coming because you keep telling them to come. Anyway, so since you told them to come, all these folks are doing is helping finish the trip. Now, what they realize is that you really haven't set aside the resources for them. They know this, right? But guess what? They don't have the resources either. But at least if you in New York City, in Chicago, in Washington, D.C., in Massachusetts, if you are also feeling the pain of what is going on at the border, then you are going to call on your elected officials, those who are in Congress, whether it be the House or whether it be the Senate, you are going to call on them to fix it. To say, you know what? We have a border. How about we enforce it? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Seems to make too much sense. But who knows? I just talk trash on YouTube. So what do I know, right? But I do know that you can't just keep welcoming people in, inviting people in, and then be surprised when they show up. All right? Especially those of you in Chicago and in some of these other cities, these sanctuary cities, you don't get to invite them to someone else's house and then get mad when those people are like, okay, well, I'm just going to send them to your house since you invited them here. And that's what's going on. That's what's going on here. And I think they're well within their rights to do so. And, oh, by the way, that answers, that actually answers question number 2. The next question, which is basically, like I said, who was inviting them here? Well, it was basically the folks that, it was basically the folks from New York City. I mean, the sanctuary cities were the ones who are actually inviting them into the country. All right, let's move on to our parting shots today, and we've got a couple of them. This first one, well, in case you didn't, and we didn't really report on it here, but because President Biden says so many stupid things. He got up at an event yesterday, and he was talking about Russia, and he was talking about the danger and the threats of nuclear war. And specifically, he was talking about that Russia was going to cause nuclear Armageddon. So under his watch, we are now under the threat of nuclear Armageddon, thanks to President Joe Biden. Which then, by the way, leads me to this. This basically says, I prefer mean tweets over nuclear Armageddon, but that's just me. I don't know. Am I the only one? Am I the only one who would prefer mean tweets to nuclear Armageddon? No? Yes? Maybe? Okay. Forget it. I guess maybe I am the only one. All right. And then this next one. So there is a minor league team, and I saw this one at SBA Nation, as you'll see. There's a minor league team that has an individual. He has a player. He's a French player playing in the G League, well, let's just say his jerseys have become incredibly popular. It looks like they're flying off the shelves. So there's a gentleman. His name is Steve, and he spells his name with 3 E's. So already I got an issue with dude because Steve is spelled S-U. We know. Anyway, so his name is Steve. And on his jersey, he has his last name, which is Ho You Fat, which basically means that the name on the back of his jersey is Ho You Fat. Yeah, he is like everybody's favorite French basketball player. And his jerseys are flying off the shelves. No, I am not cursing. I am just merely pointing out to you what is on the back of his jersey. I find it hilarious. Yes, I understand. It's junior high school humor. But nonetheless, I find it funny. So hopefully you do too. All right, folks. Well, hey, before we head out, we have to make sure to give a shout out to our sponsors. Once again, we have Hitman Industries. You can find them at hitmanindustries.net. That's hitmanindustries.net. It is the place to go to buy your barrels and other firearms accessories. Just go there, check them out, and I'm sure you will love what you see. Make sure to buy yourself one. Also, the California Republican Assembly. That's at cragop.org. That's cragop.org. Fighting the fight behind enemy lines in the Golden State. CRA is the Republican wing of the Republican Party in the state of California. And finally, we have the folks over at uscombatgear.com, the place to go to get all of your cool combat gear. Whatever you need, I'm sure they got it. And if they ain't got it, they can get it. But make sure you hit them up. Let them know that the folks over at The Rundown sent you. Once again, the links and all the links to all their websites are in the description to this program. Well, folks, it's been fun. It's been a phenomenal week. I'm glad I got a chance to be with you all week almost all week because I wasn't here Monday, but got a chance to finish out the week with you, even though I had to miss Monday and last Friday. But Friday is always fun because we always have a good time. So I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. Mikey, if you're out there and you're listening or you're watching, go jump in a lake. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, go jump in a lake. Anyway, just kidding, Mike. Please don't jump in the lake. You will scare the fish. With that, folks, you guys have a good time. Enjoy your weekend. I hope you get a chance to send a few downrange. But if not, hey, I hope you get a chance to pour yourself a few. Anyway, take care. Talk to you again on Monday. Fun day, gun day. Holler at you later.